A little black girl stood at the counter, clutching a few wrinkled bills to buy medicine for her sick mom. The woman attending her narrowed her eyes and shouted, "You're trying to steal, aren't you? Thieves like you should be ashamed." The girl froze, her lips trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks. And at that exact moment, a millionaire walked in, and he heard everything.
Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Earth, stars. And let's make a deal. If you don't hit that like button, maybe tonight the millionaire from this story will show up at your door to check your homework. Eyeballs. And now, let's begin our story. The small town of Brooksville was quiet that evening, but inside a little pharmacy on Main Street, tension hung heavy in the air. A 6-year-old girl, her dark curls falling softly around her face, stood at the counter, clutching a few crumpled bills in her tiny hands. Her name was Maya. Her wide brown eyes showed both innocence and desperation. She wasn't there for candy or toys or anything children usually begged for. She was there for medicine. Medicine her mother needed badly. Behind the counter stood a woman with a sharp face and an impatient tone. Her name was Mrs. Carter, a longtime clerk at the pharmacy. She looked down at Maya as if the child didn't belong there at all. When she saw the worn bills and the trembling hands, her suspicion grew like wildfire. "You're trying to steal, aren't you?" Mrs. Carter snapped, her voice loud enough for others in the store to hear. "Thieves like you should be ashamed." Maya's eyes filled with tears instantly. She shook her head quickly, pressing the money against the counter. "No, please. I just want medicine for my mom. She's really sick," she whispered. Her voice cracked, the weight of humiliation pressing down harder than her own exhaustion. But Mrs. Carter's face didn't soften. Instead, she leaned closer, as if exposing Maya in front of the other customers. "I've seen your kind before. Always looking for trouble, always lying. You think people will pity you because you're just a little girl? Not with me. I know what you're up to."
Maya hugged herself, her small body trembling. She looked over her shoulder, wishing she could run, wishing someone would believe her. But the stares from strangers only made her cheeks burn hotter. She was too young to fight back with words. All she could do was stand there, shaking, while the accusation tore her down piece by piece. And then the bell above the pharmacy door rang. A tall man in an elegant navy blue suit stepped inside, carrying a leather briefcase. His shoes tapped against the tiled floor as he walked. His name was William Hayes, a millionaire businessman known for his empire of hotels across the state. He hadn't planned to stop there that night, but fate had its own intentions. He simply wanted to buy something small before heading back to his car, but instead he froze as soon as he noticed the scene unfolding before him. He saw the girl, he saw the clerk, and most importantly, he heard every single word. William's eyes narrowed, his chest tightening. He had grown up poor himself before building his fortune, and he knew the sting of being judged unfairly. That pain, the pain of being looked down on, never left a person's memory. He set his briefcase down gently, his sharp gaze fixed on the woman behind the counter. "What exactly is going on here?" His voice cut through the air like a blade, calm but commanding. Mrs. Carter, startled, suddenly realizing who had walked in. She stammered, "Oh, Mr. Hayes, I was just making sure this girl wasn't causing any trouble." William raised a brow. His eyes flicked to Maya, still trembling, clutching her bills desperately. Back to Mrs. Carter. "Trouble?" he repeated. His tone carried disbelief, even disgust. "All I see is a child, a frightened child who came here for help. And instead of kindness, you give her cruelty." The room fell silent. Other customers pretended to browse, but everyone listened. Maya looked up at him, her tears mixing with hope. For the first time that night, someone had spoken in her defense. She didn't know who he was, but his presence felt like a shield against the storm. William stepped closer to the counter, standing beside Maya. "What medicine do you need, sweetheart?" he asked gently, kneeling slightly so his eyes met hers. She sniffled, smiled, her voice almost gone from fear. It's for my mom. She has trouble breathing. The doctor said she needs it." William nodded, his jaw tightening, as he turned back toward Mrs. Carter. "Then you'll get it for her. Now. And don't you dare waste another breath accusing this child." Mrs. Carter flushed red, fumbling with the shelves behind her. She pulled the medicine quickly, her hands shaking. She tried to mutter something about misunderstandings, but William's gaze silenced her. She placed the small box on the counter, sliding it forward without another word. Maya reached for her bills again, but William placed his hand gently over hers. "Keep your money," he said firmly. "This one's on me." Her eyes widened. But I can pay." William smiled faintly, shaking his head. "No, you shouldn't have to. Tonight you don't worry about money. You just worry about taking care of your mom, all right?" Her tears spilled over, but this time they weren't only from sadness. She nodded quickly, whispering, "Thank you." He gave her a reassuring pat on the shoulder, then stood tall once more, his presence filling the room. "Let this be a lesson," he said, his voice steady, aimed not only at Mrs. Carter, but at every witness in the store. Compassion costs nothing. But cruelty leaves scars that last a lifetime. Maya hugged the box of medicine tightly against her chest. For her, this night would never be forgotten. The humiliation she had felt moments ago was replaced with the memory of someone standing up for her when she needed it most. And for William Hayes, the moment planted a seed. Something inside him stirred, a reminder of his own childhood struggles, and a question he could not ignore. How many other children suffered, unseen, unheard, dismissed by people too blind to care? As the door closed behind him and the storm of the evening gave way to silence, both Maya and William knew their paths had crossed for a reason, and this was only the beginning of something far bigger than either of them could imagine.
The little bell above the pharmacy door jingled softly as Maya stepped outside. The night air felt colder than she remembered, but the small box of medicine pressed tightly against her chest gave her a sense of relief she hadn't felt in days. Her shoes tapped gently against the pavement as she hurried home, the memory of the cruel words still echoing in her mind, but so did the sound of William's voice defending her. It was as if she carried both the pain and the hope in her heart at the same time. The street lamps flickered overhead, casting long shadows on the cracked sidewalks of Brooksville's poorer district. Maya's house wasn't far, a worn-out little building with peeling paint and a broken fence. She pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside, greeted by the soft cough of her mother from the bedroom. "Mom?" Maya whispered, rushing to the bedside. Her mother, Elena, was frail, her once bright eyes now dulled by illness. Yet when she saw the medicine in her daughter's hands, her lips curved into a weak but grateful smile. You got it?" Elena asked, her voice trembling. Maya nodded eagerly. "Yes, Mom, and you don't have to worry. I paid for it. Well, someone helped me." She hesitated, not sure how to explain the tall man who had appeared like a guardian angel. "A kind man saw me at the pharmacy. He helped me." Elena's tired eyes softened as she reached out to stroke Maya's cheek. "My brave girl, always taking care of me." She took the medicine, her hands trembling as she opened the box. For the first time in weeks, there was hope in the air, a fragile but precious kind of hope. In the corner, Maya's younger brother, Jordan, peeked out from under a thin blanket. He was only 4, with big, curious eyes. "Maya, who helped you?" he asked, his voice small. She smiled gently at him, crouching down so he could see her face. "Someone special, Jordan. A man who didn't treat me badly. He stood up for me." Jordan's little face lit up. "Like a hero?" Maya paused, thinking about it. William Hayes didn't look like the heroes from cartoons, but to her, he had been more real than any story. "Yes," she whispered, "like a hero." Across town, William Hayes sat in the back of his sleek black car, the city lights blurring past the tinted windows. He should have been thinking about his meetings, contracts, and endless business calls, but instead, all he could see in his mind was the trembling child at the counter, clutching her money and begging for medicine. He leaned back in his seat, loosening his tie. That girl, he muttered to himself. She couldn't have been more than 6, and already treated like that. His chest tightened, a mixture of anger and sorrow pressing against him. He knew cruelty existed, but witnessing it so directly stirred something deeper inside him. His driver, an older man named Henry, glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "Everything all right, sir?" William sighed, rubbing his forehead. "No, Henry, not really. Tonight I saw something I can't get out of my head. A little girl accused of stealing when all she wanted was medicine for her mother. I stepped in, but it doesn't feel like enough." Henry nodded quietly. He had worked for William long enough to know when something truly touched him. "Sometimes, sir, a single act of kindness means more than we think." But William's thoughts wouldn't rest. He stared out at the passing streets, wondering how many children like Maya were struggling in silence, invisible to those with the power to help. Back at home, Maya sat on the floor with Jordan, watching him fall asleep as their mother rested after taking the medicine. The house was quiet, except for the soft hum of the night. She hugged her knees to her chest, whispering to herself, "One day things will be better. One day." Yet, despite her brave words, the sting of Mrs. Carter's accusation still hurt. She wondered why some people hated her without even knowing her, why they saw her skin, her poverty, and decided she didn't deserve kindness. Tears welled up again, but she wiped them quickly. She couldn't let Jordan or her mother see her cry. Instead, she closed her eyes and remembered the look on William's face when he defended her. It wasn't pity, it was respect, and that meant everything. The next morning, William sat in his office on the top floor of Hayes Tower, his empire's headquarters. The city skyline stretched endlessly outside his window, but his focus wasn't on contracts or deals. Instead, he was writing notes on a yellow pad. "How to make real change," he scribbled, pausing every few seconds. "Scholarships, community funds, medical support." But his pen stopped when he thought of Maya's face again, her wide eyes, her trembling voice. He tapped the pen against the desk, realizing something important. It wasn't just about programs or distant donations. Change had to be personal. He needed to know these children, to understand their lives, to give them more than money, to give them dignity. At that moment, he made a silent promise. "I'll find that girl again, and I'll make sure she never feels alone." Meanwhile, Maya walked hand in hand with Jordan to school, her heart still heavy, but lifted slightly by the medicine she had brought home. The streets were loud with traffic, vendors, and chatter, but her mind wandered back to the man in the suit. She wondered who he was, why he had helped her, and if she would ever see him again. For now, she only knew one thing. Because of him, her mother had a chance to get better. And sometimes, a single chance was all a child could dream of. The morning sun crept through the thin curtains of Maya's small bedroom. The rays of light revealed cracked walls, faded paint, and a single shelf stacked with second-hand schoolbooks. Maya stirred awake on her worn mattress, the sound of her mother's soft breathing filling the room. Elena was resting better than she had in weeks, thanks to the medicine. Maya stretched her arms, her 6-year-old body still heavy with exhaustion. She hadn't slept much, not because she was restless, but because she kept replaying the moment from last night. The woman's harsh accusation, the way everyone in the pharmacy had looked at her like she was guilty. And then William's voice, firm, steady, protective. She glanced at her brother, Jordan, who was curled up under a thin blanket, sucking on his thumb. He stirred, rubbed his eyes, and looked up at her. "Good morning, Maya," he mumbled sleepily. She smiled at him, brushing the curls from his forehead. "Good morning, buddy. Did you sleep well?" He nodded and then asked the question that had been on his mind since last night. "Do you think we'll see that man again? The one who helped you?" Maya hesitated. She didn't want to give Jordan false hope. "I don't know," she admitted softly. "But maybe one day." Jordan grinned. "If he's a hero, heroes always come back."
right?" Maya pulled him into a hug, her eyes burning with unspoken tears. "Yes," she whispered, "heroes always come back." Across the city, William Hayes sat at his breakfast table, untouched coffee in front of him. The news flickered on the flat-screen television mounted on the wall, but he wasn't paying attention. His mind was far from stock markets and headlines. He had barely slept, haunted by the image of Maya's small frame trembling in fear at the pharmacy. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the sharp accusation, "You people always steal." It rang in his ears, mingling with Maya's quiet pleas for her mother's medicine. He had told himself he had done enough. He had paid for the medicine, defended her in public, but the truth gnawed at him. Enough? He had the power to change lives, yet he had only intervened once. How many other children like Maya went unnoticed? Pushing the coffee away, William stood abruptly. He walked to the window of his penthouse, looking down at the bustling streets below. His decision was clear. He would find her. Not out of pity, but because something in her eyes had awakened a responsibility he couldn't ignore. He picked up his phone and dialed Henry, his loyal driver. "Clear your day," he said firmly. "We're going back to Brooksville. There's someone I need to find." Later that morning, Maya walked Jordan to school. Her small hand clutched his tightly, guiding him carefully across busy streets. They passed the bakery, where the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Jordan's eyes lingered on the golden loaves displayed in the window, but he didn't ask. He knew they couldn't afford it. Maya noticed and squeezed his hand. "One day," she promised softly, "one day we'll buy as many as you want." Jordan smiled, trusting her words, even though he didn't fully understand how hard things really were. At the school gates, Maya bent down to fix the collar of his shirt. "Be good today, okay? I'll pick you up later." Jordan nodded and ran inside, waving as he disappeared into the crowd of children. Maya turned back toward home, her stomach growling. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning, but food was never her priority. Her mother and brother came first. Meanwhile, William's car rolled slowly into Brooksville's poorer district. Henry glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "Do you even know where to start, sir?" William exhaled. "She mentioned her mother was sick. That means she probably lives nearby. The pharmacy clerk might know where she lives." Henry frowned. "You're going back there?" "Yes," William said firmly. "I need to." When the car pulled up in front of the same pharmacy, William stepped out, his polished shoes clicking against the pavement. He pushed open the door, the same little bell jingling overhead. The clerk froze when he saw him. "Mr. Hayes?" The man stammered nervously. I didn't expect you back." William's eyes narrowed. "Do you remember that girl from last night? The one you accused of stealing?" The clerk shifted uncomfortably. Well, sir, I didn't mean." "Save it," William cut him off, his tone sharp. "Do you know where she lives?" He swallowed hard. "Down on Willow Street, near the old factory. Small white house. You can't miss it." William didn't say another word. He turned on his heel and left, leaving the clerk trembling behind the counter. Back at home, Maya was washing dishes in a cracked sink when she heard a knock on the door. Her heart skipped a beat. Visitors were rare, almost non-existent. She wiped her hands nervously on her dress and opened the door slightly. Her eyes widened. Standing there was the man from last night, William Hayes himself. His tall frame filled the doorway, his expression gentle but firm. "Maya," he said softly, as if he had rehearsed her name in his mind all night. She froze, unsure of what to say. How did you find me?" "I asked," he admitted honestly. "I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. I had to make sure you were all right." Her eyes darted behind her to where her mother rested in bed. "We're fine," she whispered, though the truth was far from it. William's gaze softened. "May I come in?" She hesitated, torn between fear and trust. But something in his voice reassured her. Slowly, she opened the door wider. Inside, William saw the peeling walls, the worn-out furniture, the thin blankets that barely kept them warm. His chest tightened as he realized just how hard this little family's life was. Elena stirred, coughing weakly. When she saw him, confusion flickered across her face. Who are you?" "I'm William Hayes," he said gently. "I met your daughter last night. She was buying medicine for you." Her eyes welled with tears. You helped her?" William nodded. "Yes, and I want to do more, if you'll let me." Maya's small hand tugged at his sleeve, her eyes wide, filled with both hope and fear. "Why? Why would you want to help us?" William knelt down so he was eye level with her. "Because no child should have to carry the weight you're carrying. You've been strong for your family, Maya, but now, let someone be strong for you." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. For the first time, Maya felt the possibility that life could change, not because she begged for it, but because someone cared enough to see her, truly see her.
And for William, kneeling there in that broken little home, the decision he had made the night before became a vow. He wasn't just going to help her, he was going to change her life.
The morning passed slowly in the small house on Willow Street. William sat on the old wooden chair by the table, his sharp suit and polished shoes looking almost out of place in such a humble setting. Maya sat across from him, her small hands folded neatly in her lap, eyes darting between him and the door, as if afraid he might vanish at any moment. Her mother, Elena, leaned against the couch, trying to sit upright despite her weakness. She had insisted on talking, though every cough betrayed the pain hidden beneath her brave smile. "Mr. Hayes," she began softly, her voice hoarse, "I don't know why you're here, but you've already done more for us than most people ever would. You should go. People like us don't belong in your world." William leaned forward, his gaze steady. "With respect, Mrs. Alvarez, I don't believe that. Last night, when I saw your daughter humiliated for simply wanting medicine, I realized how much injustice hides in sight plain. You deserve better. She deserves better." Elena's lips trembled as she tried to form a reply, but Maya spoke first, her young voice filled with both hope and fear. "Do you really mean that? You're not just saying it?" William turned to her, his expression softening. "I mean it with everything I am." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the ticking of a small clock on the wall. Maya fidgeted with the hem of her faded dress, her cheeks warming under his gaze. She wanted to believe him, but life had taught her not to trust too easily. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why would a man like you care about a girl like me?"
William hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. "Because when I looked at you yesterday, Maya, I saw courage. I saw a child carrying a weight no child should ever have to bear. I have money, influence, and all the things people think make life easy. But none of that matters if I ignore what's right in front of me. I care because I should." Her eyes widened slightly, as though hearing something she had never expected from an adult before. Later that afternoon, William asked if he could take Maya and Jordan for a walk. Elena hesitated at first, her maternal instincts protective, but William's sincerity convinced her. Maya slipped on her worn shoes, holding Jordan's tiny hand as they stepped outside. William walked beside them, the towering figure of a millionaire blending awkwardly into the cracked sidewalks of Brooksville's poorest street. The neighborhood children stared curiously, whispering to one another. Adults passing by gave William wary glances, unaccustomed to seeing a man of his wealth in their part of town. But William didn't care. His focus was on the two small children by his side. They reached a small park, if it could be called that. The swings creaked, the paint long since peeled away, and the grass was more dirt than green. Still, Maya's eyes lit up when she saw it. Can we stay here for a bit?" she asked timidly. "Of course," William said, smiling gently. Jordan ran to the swings, laughing as he tried to push himself higher. Maya followed him, sitting on the swing beside him. Her laughter bubbled softly, fragile but genuine. For a brief moment, she looked like any other child, free from worries. William leaned against the rusted fence, watching them with a bittersweet ache in his chest. He had grown up with every luxury, but none of it had given him the kind of pure joy he now saw in Maya's face. When Maya grew tired, she walked back to William and sat down on the bench beside him. She looked up at him with wide eyes. "Do you have kids?" she asked suddenly. William blinked, taken aback by the question. "No, I don't. I never had the chance." "Then why are you so nice to us?" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Because maybe life gave me money for a reason. Maybe it was so I could help children like you." Maya studied him closely, as though testing whether he meant it. Slowly, she nodded, accepting his answer. As the day faded into evening, William walked Maya and Jordan back home. The sky turned shades of orange and pink, casting a soft glow over the broken streets. When they arrived at the little house, Elena stood at the door, waiting. She looked at her children, their cheeks flushed with the excitement of the day, and then at William. "You've done more for them in a single afternoon than I could have ever given them," she whispered. William shook his head. "You've given them love. That's more valuable than anything else." Her eyes filled with tears. "But love doesn't pay for food or medicine." He met her gaze steadily. "That's where I can help." That night, After William left, Maya lay awake in bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. Jordan was fast asleep beside her, clutching a small toy car they had found in the park. Her heart pounded as she thought of William's words. Could he really change their lives? Or would he disappear like so many others who had promised help and never returned? But something told her he was different. Something in his voice, in the way he had looked at her, told her that he meant every word. She closed her eyes, whispering into the darkness, "Please let him come back tomorrow." In his penthouse across the city, William sat by his desk, staring out at the glittering skyline. He should have been reviewing contracts or attending to business calls, but all he could see was Maya's fragile smile. For the first time in years, his wealth felt heavy. Not because of what it gave him, but because of what it could give to others. He made a silent vow that night. He would not abandon her. And with that promise, both Maya's fragile hope and William's determination began to weave together into something neither of them had expected, a bond that would soon change everything.
The next morning, Brooksville woke to the sounds of vendors setting up their stalls and buses screeching as they rounded sharp corners. The small Alvarez house smelled faintly of boiled rice, the last bit Elena had managed to stretch for breakfast. Maya was already awake, quietly folding a small rag to use as a cloth for Jordan's face. Her little brother giggled as she dabbed his cheeks, though his laughter was interrupted by a soft cough. Maya's eyes filled with worry. Before she could say anything, a knock echoed at the door. It was firm, but not harsh. Maya froze. Elena looked up from her chair, her face pale with both illness and uncertainty. "Who could it be this early?" she whispered. Maya crept to the door and opened it slowly. Standing there, dressed neatly in another fine suit, was William Hayes. His eyes softened when they landed on her. "Good morning, Maya," he said, his voice calm but warm. "I hope I'm not intruding." Maya's eyes lit up despite herself. "You came back." "Yes," William smiled gently. "I promised, didn't I?" He stepped inside, carrying a small paper bag. Setting it down on the table, he revealed fresh bread, butter, and milk. Maya stared wide-eyed, as if the simple groceries were treasures from another world. Elena sat up straighter, her voice tight. "Mr. Hayes, you shouldn't have." William raised a hand gently. "Please, call me William." And I wanted to. These are small things, but sometimes small things matter most. Maya quickly poured milk into a cup for Jordan, who clapped his little hands with excitement. The sight made William's chest ache in ways he hadn't expected. Over breakfast, Elena finally asked the question weighing on her mind. "Why us? You must see people suffering every day. Why are you here, helping us?" William sipped his coffee slowly, buying a moment to think. "Because yesterday, when I saw your daughter at that pharmacy, I realized how easily we walk past injustice. I've done it before. I've ignored people in need, but not this time. I couldn't." Elena's lips trembled, but she didn't argue further. Her cough rattled in her chest, silencing her with exhaustion. Maya looked at William with cautious curiosity. "Are you really rich?" William chuckled softly, caught off guard by her bluntness. "Yes, Maya, I suppose I am." Her brows furrowed. "Then why are you here with us? People like you don't usually come here." His smile faded, replaced by a serious expression. "Maybe because I've been too comfortable in my world. Maybe because money without purpose is just paper. Being here with you, it feels like the first time I'm actually using what I have the right way." Maya's eyes widened. She hugged Jordan closer, whispering in his ear as though sharing a secret. "See? I told you he was different." Later that day, William offered to take Maya with him to buy groceries. Elena hesitated, but Maya's pleading eyes convinced her. Jordan stayed with his mother, while Maya slipped her small hand into William's. The supermarket in Brooksville was noisy and crowded. People bustled through aisles, carrying baskets filled with vegetables and canned goods. William pushed a cart, while Maya walked beside him, her eyes darting nervously at the shelves. "Pick anything you like," he said. Her mouth fell open. "Anything?" "Anything." She hesitated, then grabbed a loaf of bread and a pack of rice, placing them carefully in the cart. William raised an eyebrow. "Is that all?"
Maya shrugged shyly. It's what we need most. William studied her quietly. She could have grabbed candy, toys, or sweets, but she didn't. She thought only of her family. The weight of that responsibility on such small shoulders broke his heart. As they walked toward the register, a woman in a sharp coat brushed past them, sneering at Maya. "Watch where you're going, girl." Maya's shoulders hunched instantly, her eyes dropping to the floor. William noticed and gently placed a hand on her back. "Don't listen," he said softly. "Some people don't see clearly." At the counter, Maya carefully placed the items down. The cashier, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, looked from William's expensive suit to Maya's faded dress. His tone was curt. "You paying for this, sir?" William nodded calmly. "Yes, she's with me." Maya glanced up at him, her eyes shimmering. For the first time in a long while, she felt protected. Afterwards, they sat on a bench outside, bags at their feet. William handed her a small chocolate bar. "For you," he said. Her eyes widened. "I've never had one like this before." She unwrapped it carefully, broke it in half, and extended the piece toward him. William blinked. "That's yours, Maya." She shook her head firmly. "You helped us. You should have some too." He accepted it, humbled beyond words. The gesture from a child who had so little, yet still chose to share, pierced him deeper than any business deal or fortune ever had. That night, as William returned to his penthouse, he couldn't shake the image of Maya offering him half of her chocolate. Her resilience, her generosity, her quiet strength, all of it replayed in his mind. He sat at his grand dining table, where silverware gleamed and chandeliers sparkled, but the food before him tasted like nothing. The silence of his vast home only reminded him of what he had seen, a small girl giving away what little she had. For the first time in years, William felt restless in his own wealth. Back in Brooksville, Maya tucked Jordan into bed. Elena stroked her daughter's hair and whispered, "He's different, isn't he?" Maya nodded slowly. "He came back, Mama. He really came back." Elena smiled faintly. The worry still clouded her eyes. "Let's pray he stays." Maya lay down beside her brother, clutching the empty wrapper of the chocolate bar, as if it were a token of hope. She closed her eyes with a small, secret smile. And across the city, William lay awake too, knowing that he wouldn't walk away. The sun rose slowly over Brooksville, casting a pale orange glow across the skyline. The Alvarez household stirred quietly, with Elena coughing softly from her chair, Jordan still asleep in the corner, and Maya already awake, her small body moving with the practiced rhythm of responsibility. She boiled water in a battered pot, carefully watching the steam curl upward. Her thoughts kept drifting to William Hayes. He had returned yesterday, just as he had promised, and brought more than food. He had brought dignity, a sense that she and her family mattered. For Maya, who had grown used to invisibility, that feeling was priceless. Yet doubt gnawed at her. Would he really keep helping us, or was this just temporary pity? A sharp knock startled her from her thoughts. Elena looked up with weary eyes, then nodded toward the door. Maya opened it, and there he stood again. William. His hair was neatly combed, his suit darker today, navy blue with a crisp white shirt underneath. He carried no briefcase, only a quiet smile. "Good morning," he greeted. "May I come in?" Maya stepped aside eagerly, though her mother's suspicion lingered. Elena coughed before speaking. "Mr. Hayes." "William," he corrected gently. "William," she said, hesitant. "This is not your responsibility. We don't want to be a burden." He shook his head. "You're not. Please believe me. I want to be here." Maya's lips curved into a small smile, though she quickly lowered her gaze to hide it. William sat at the rickety table, looking around the tiny home, the peeling wallpaper, the sagging ceiling, the way everything seemed patched together. He thought of his penthouse again, of the glossy marble floors and gold fixtures that never once made him feel alive. Here, though, in this fragile house, he felt more human than ever. Maya offered him a chipped cup of tea. "It's not much," she whispered. He took it carefully, meeting her eyes. "It's perfect. Thank you, Maya." Her cheeks flushed faintly. She wasn't used to someone like him saying thank you to her. Later that day, William surprised them by suggesting something unusual. "There's a bookstore near the square," he said. "Would you like to come with me, Maya?" Her eyes widened.
Bookstore? Yes. I thought you might like to see it, and maybe pick something. Maya turned to her mother, her excitement barely contained. Elena hesitated, then nodded slowly. If she stays close to you, yes. Maya almost bounced on her feet. She had never been inside a bookstore, only peered through the windows at shelves lined with treasures she couldn't afford. The store smelled of paper and ink, filled with quiet aisles and polished wooden floors. Customers browsed silently, their fingers brushing the spines of novels and dictionaries. Maya clung to William's hand at first, nervous under the gaze of strangers who noticed her worn dress. But William walked tall and confident, his presence shielding her. Go ahead, look around. Maya released his hand slowly and wandered into an aisle. Her eyes danced from cover to cover, lingering on a small children's book with bright illustrations of animals. She picked it up cautiously, almost afraid it might vanish if she held it too tightly. William approached. Do you like it? She nodded. It looks happy, he smiled. Then it's yours. Her mouth fell open. But it costs money. He crouched slightly to meet her eyes. That's why I'm here. Tears welled at the corners of her eyes. It wasn't just about the book. It was about being told she deserved to want something. At the register, the cashier looked from Maya to William with thinly veiled disapproval. His voice dripped with condescension. Is she with you? William's jaw tightened. Yes, she's with me. The man muttered something under his breath, but rang up the book. William ignored the sting, though Maya's shoulders drooped. Outside, he knelt beside her. Don't let anyone make you feel less, he said firmly. Do you hear me? You have worth, Maya, more than they'll ever understand. She sniffled and nodded, hugging the book tightly to her chest. They walked to a nearby park, where leaves rustled in the soft breeze. William sat on a bench, while Maya opened the book carefully, reading the simple words aloud. Her voice trembled at first, but as William listened attentively, her confidence grew. You're very good, he said when she finished a page. She blushed, hiding behind the book. Mama says reading will help me be strong, but books are expensive. We can't. Her voice trailed off. William leaned back, gazing at the clouds. Then let me promise you this. You'll never have to worry about books again. If you want to learn, I'll make sure you can. Her eyes widened again. Really? Really. She threw her arms around him suddenly, startling him, but he quickly wrapped his arms around her in return, the smallness of her frame striking him like a reminder of how just fragile and how important she was. That night, after bringing her safely home, William walked the streets of Brooksville alone. His thoughts churned. He had built companies, signed contracts worth millions, been applauded in boardrooms, yet none of it mattered the way this did. Helping one child, seeing her eyes brighten, was worth more than all his business triumphs. But questions tugged at him. How much could he do? Was he ready to step fully into her world, a world so far from his own? Back at the Alvarez home, Maya showed the book proudly to her mother and brother. Jordan clapped his tiny hands as she read aloud, stumbling through the sentences, but grinning the whole way. Alana watched quietly, tears in her eyes. For the first time in months, she saw her daughter glow with something more than exhaustion, with hope. Maya, she whispered softly, when the children were asleep, maybe God really did send him. Maya hugged the book to her chest as she drifted off to sleep, and in her dreams, the bookstore wasn't just a building, but a doorway to a future she had never dared to imagine.
The following morning, Brooksville awoke to the hum of traffic and distant chatter. But inside the Alvarez home, the air was different. For once, hope lingered like a fragile fragrance. Maya stirred awake with her little brother Jordan curled against her. The small book William had given her was clutched to her chest as if it were a treasure chest that no thief could steal. Her mother, Elena, coughed softly in the next room, and Maya's eyes clouded. Reality returned quickly. The book was precious, but their troubles hadn't disappeared overnight. Rent was still overdue, her mother was still weak, and food remained scarce. Maya whispered to herself, I have to be strong. She got up, washed quickly with cold water, and braided her hair into into 2 neat plates. She wanted William to see her trying, not giving up. Later that morning, another knock sounded at the door. Maya's heart skipped. She rushed to open it, and there stood William once again. He wore a gray suit today, crisp and clean, with his tie slightly loosened, as though he had rushed from some important meeting. His eyes softened when he saw her. "Good morning, Maya," he said warmly. She smiled shyly. "Good morning, Mr. Hayes." He crouched slightly, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "Ready for another adventure?" Her eyes lit up. "Where?" "You'll see." Elena appeared at the doorway, concern etched into her features. "William, I don't want you to think we expect anything from you." He met her gaze firmly. "I know, but please let me help. I've lived a life where money bought everything but meaning. Maybe this is where I finally find it."
Elena lowered her head, humbled, though a flicker of gratitude shone through her exhaustion. She nodded. "Take care of her." Outside, William's sleek black car gleamed under the morning sun. Maya hesitated before sliding into the back seat, the leather far too luxurious for someone who had grown up on broken chairs and peeling wallpaper. She pressed her palms against the seat, whispering, "It feels like a cloud." William chuckled softly. "Then I hope the ride is just as comfortable." As the car pulled away, Maya pressed her face to the window, wide-eyed at the city rushing past, the polished buildings, the storefronts filled with clothes and toys she could never have imagined owning. Their destination was not a restaurant or a bookstore this time. William had something different in mind. When the car stopped, Maya blinked in disbelief. Before her stood a large white building with tall windows and the words Brooksville Academy etched in silver letters. She turned to him confused. "What is this place?" He smiled. "A school, one of the best in the city." Her breath caught. "School?" "Yes. I spoke with the director last night. They're willing to give you a place here, if you want it." Maya's eyes filled instantly. She gripped the book tighter against her chest. "But we can't afford—" William interrupted gently. "That's for me to worry about. All you need to decide is if you want to learn, Maya." Inside, the halls gleamed with polished floors and walls lined with paintings. Children in neat uniforms walked by, some laughing, others whispering. Maya's heart raced. She felt like an intruder, too small, too poor, too out of place. But William placed a hand on her shoulder. "Stand tall," he murmured. "You belong here as much as anyone else." The headmistress, a tall woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, greeted them. "Mr. Hayes, this must be the young lady you told me about?" Maya lowered her head shyly. "Yes, ma'am." The woman's expression softened. "Welcome, Maya. We'll take good care of you." William led her to the courtyard, where children played on clean swings and benches gleamed in the sunlight. "Do you like it?" he asked. Her lips trembled. "It's like another world." He knelt before her. "And you deserve to live in this world too, not just watch it from the outside." She clutched his hand suddenly, surprising them both. "Thank you." William's throat tightened. He hadn't expected gratitude so pure, so heavy. In that moment, he knew his decision to help her wasn't just charity, it was destiny. That afternoon, William bought Maya her first set of uniforms. He insisted on letting her choose. She ran her small fingers over the fabric, marveling at how soft it felt compared to the rough clothes she usually wore. "Try it on," he encouraged. She disappeared into the fitting room and emerged minutes later in a navy blue skirt and white blouse, her golden braids falling neatly over her shoulders. William's eyes misted. "You look," he struggled for words, "like a star." Her cheeks flushed pink. For the first time in her life, Maya saw herself not as the poor girl everyone dismissed, but as a student, someone with a chance. When they returned home, Maya ran inside excitedly, showing Elena the uniform. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, and she pressed her hand to her chest. "Is this real?" she whispered. Maya twirled clumsily in the tiny living room. "I'm going to school, Mama." Elena looked at William with gratitude so deep it nearly broke him. "You don't know what this means to us." William smiled softly. "I think I do." That evening, after supper, Maya sat outside on the porch, the book in her lap and the uniform folded neatly beside her. William joined her, leaning on the railing. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "when I was your age, I thought money could fix everything. But I was wrong. Sometimes it takes something money can't buy. Courage, kindness, and someone willing to try." Maya tilted her head. "But you have money, and you're kind. Doesn't that mean you can do both?" He chuckled, touched by her innocence. "Maybe, but you're teaching me that kindness matters more." As night settled over Brooksville, Maya hugged him suddenly, her small arms tight around his waist. "Don't leave us," she whispered. His chest tightened. "I'm not going anywhere, Maya." For the first time in years, William Hayes, the man with more wealth than he could ever spend, felt truly rich, not because of the cars or buildings or accounts under his name, but because a 6-year-old girl had given him something priceless, purpose. And with that, Maya drifted to sleep with hope in her heart, ready for the world that awaited her.
The next morning, Maya woke up before the sun had fully risen. Her excitement had carried her through the night, and though her little body needed rest, her spirit refused to let her sleep. She sat up in bed, the school uniform folded neatly on the chair beside her. She touched it gently, running her fingers over the fabric, almost afraid it might vanish if she blinked too long. Her mother stirred on the other side of the room, coughing lightly. Elena's illness always seemed worse in the mornings. Maya got up quietly and poured her mother a glass of water. "Here, Mama," she whispered. Elena smiled faintly, her face pale. "Thank you, my sweet girl. Are you nervous?" Maya nodded, though her eyes still sparkled with joy. "A little. What if I don't fit in?" Elena reached for her daughter's hand. "You already belong, Maya. You just have to believe it. And remember, your kindness will make more of a difference than anything else." Maya squeezed her mother's hand tightly. By the time William arrived to pick her up, Maya was already dressed. The uniform fit perfectly, her braids tied neatly with little blue ribbons William had bought her the night before. She looked like a completely different child, yet her wide, earnest eyes revealed the same girl who had once stood humiliated at the pharmacy counter. William stepped inside, greeted Elena politely, and crouched down to Maya's height. "You look like a scholar already." Her cheeks flushed pink. "Do you really think so?" "I know so," he replied with a smile. The drive to Brooksville Academy felt surreal. Maya pressed her forehead against the car window, watching the morning traffic, the children with lunchboxes, the shopkeepers raising shutters. She wondered how different her life would be from now on. William, sitting beside her in the back seat, noticed her silence. "What's on your mind?" She turned to him hesitantly. "What if the other children don't like me?"
He leaned forward, his voice steady. "You don't need everyone to like you, Maya. You only need to be yourself. Those who see your heart will stay, and that's enough." When they arrived, the academy gates loomed tall, decorated with ivy and wrought iron. Children in crisp uniforms streamed inside, their laughter filling the air. Maya clutched her small backpack nervously. William placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I'll be right here until you're ready." Together they walked into the building. The headmistress, Mrs. Caldwell, welcomed them warmly. "Good morning, Mr. Hayes, and this must be our new student." Maya lowered her eyes. "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Caldwell's tone softened. "We're glad to have you, Maya. Let me introduce you to your teacher." Inside the classroom, rows of desks faced a large chalkboard. Children already sat in their places, whispering and giggling as the new girl entered. Maya felt their curious eyes on her, and her stomach tightened. Her teacher, Mr. Sanders, smiled kindly. "Class, this is Maya Alvarez. Let's all make her feel welcome." Some children smiled back, others just stared. Maya took her seat near the window, her hands trembling slightly as she opened her notebook. The first lesson began, and though her nerves made it hard to focus, Maya tried her best.
She copied words carefully, her handwriting small and shaky, but determined. At recess, things became harder. While Maya stood alone near the swings, a group of children whispered nearby. One of the girls snickered, her polished shoes gleaming in the sun. "Did you hear? She's not like us. She's poor." Maya's chest tightened. She lowered her gaze, pretending not to hear. But the words cut deep, reopening wounds of shame she thought William's kindness had healed. Then, unexpectedly, a boy with dark curly hair approached her. He carried a soccer ball under his arm. "Want to play?" Maya blinked, surprised. "Me? Yeah, why not? I'm Alex. You can be on my team." Her heart lifted instantly. She nodded, shyly. "Okay." That afternoon, William waited outside by the car. When Maya emerged, she looked both exhausted and glowing. He opened the door for her and asked gently, "How was your first day?" Maya hesitated, then smiled. "Hard, but good. I made a friend." His chest warmed. That's the best start you could ask for. Over the next weeks, life began to change for Maya. She studied diligently, often staying up late to finish her homework by candlelight when the electricity at home failed. William sometimes stopped by with extra notebooks, pencils, and snacks, pretending they were just spares he had lying around. Elena watched all of this with awe. Though her body remained weak, her heart felt lighter, knowing someone finally stood beside her daughter. She whispered to herself often, "Maybe God sent him to us." But not everyone welcomed the changes. The woman from the pharmacy, Mrs. Turner, began spreading whispers through town. "That little girl fooled some rich man into pitying her. She's just using him, you'll see." The rumors grew like weeds, reaching even the academy halls. One afternoon, Maya overheard a group of girls repeating the gossip. "My mom said she's only here because Mr. Hayes pays for everything. She doesn't deserve it." Tears stung her eyes. She rushed to the bathroom, locking herself inside a stall, clutching her chest. That evening, William found her unusually quiet in the car. "Maya, what's wrong?" She hesitated before whispering, "People are saying I don't deserve to be here, that I only tricked you into helping me." William's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He pulled over gently and turned to face her. "Listen to me. You don't need to prove yourself to them. You deserve every chance you get because of who you are, not because of me. Don't let their jealousy define your worth." Her lips trembled. "But it hurts." He nodded. "I know. But one day, they'll see what I see, a girl stronger than all their cruelty combined." Back at home, Elena hugged her daughter tightly. "Let them talk. Their words are empty. You're building a future, and that frightens people who never believed you could." Maya buried her face in her mother's shoulder, whispering, "I'll try, Mama." That night, lying in bed, Maya thought of everything. Her new school, the cruel whispers, William's unwavering faith in her. She opened the book he had given her and traced her finger along the first page. A single line seemed to leap out at her. "True courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to rise despite it." She whispered the words aloud, letting them fill the silence. And as she drifted to sleep, Maya promised herself she would rise, no matter what.
The following morning, Maya woke with a pit in her stomach. The whispers from yesterday echoed in her ears like a cruel chorus she couldn't silence. She dressed slowly, tying her ribbons with less enthusiasm than usual. Her mother noticed immediately. "Maya, your shoulders are heavy today," Elena said softly from her chair, a blanket wrapped around her thin frame. Maya hesitated, then muttered, "They keep saying I don't belong, that I don't deserve the academy. Mama, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't." Elena's eyes glistened. She reached forward, cupping her daughter's cheek. "Don't you dare let their jealousy take away your light. You earned every moment you've been given, my sweet girl, and you will prove it, not with arguments, but with the life you live." Maya swallowed hard and nodded, though the heaviness lingered. At the academy, the stairs felt sharper that day. When Maya walked into class, a few students fell silent, smirking behind their hands. She sat at her desk, forcing herself to open her notebook, but her hand shook slightly as she tried to write. Mr. Sanders, her teacher, noticed. He paused mid-lesson and asked,
Maya, could you solve the equation on the board? Her stomach twisted. All eyes turned to her. Slowly, she stood and walked to the front. The numbers blurred together as whispers filled the room. She doesn't know. She's too poor to be smart. But then she remembered William's words. You don't need to prove yourself to them. You only need to be yourself. She took a deep breath, picked up the chalk, and carefully wrote each step. To her surprise, when she finished, the answer was correct. Mr. Sanders smiled warmly. That's excellent work, Maya. That's exactly right. The class went silent. A few students exchanged glances, some impressed, others annoyed. For the first time, Maya walked back to her seat with her chin slightly higher. At recess, Alex, the boy who had invited her to play soccer, ran over. That was awesome! You're really smart!
Maya blushed. Thanks. Don't listen to them, he said, tossing the ball from hand to hand. My mom always says, some people throw rocks at things that shine too bright. I think that's you. She laughed softly. Maybe your mom is right. That afternoon, William arrived at the gates as usual. He immediately noticed her brighter expression. Good day? Maya nodded. Better. I answered a question on the board, and I was right. William grinned. I never doubted it. See what happens when you believe in yourself? Her eyes sparkled again, and for the first time in days, the doubt faded. But the whispers in town continued. Mrs. Turner, the bitter woman from the pharmacy, wasn't finished spreading poison. She told neighbors at the grocery store that William was wasting his money, that Maya's family was just manipulating him. She even hinted to the academy parents that Maya's place should be questioned. One evening, William overheard a conversation outside a cafe. Two businessmen whispered, "You know that millionaire Hayes? He's throwing away money on some poor kid. Doesn't he realize she'll just drag him down?" William's jaw tightened. He didn't confront them, but inside, something steeled. If protecting her reputation means fighting this entire town, then so be it. The next week, the academy hosted a small public event, a reading competition. Students were to stand before parents, teachers, and guests to read passages from assigned books. Maya's name was on the list. When she found out, her heart nearly stopped. I can't, she whispered to Alex. Everyone will be there. They'll laugh at me if I make a mistake. Alex shrugged. Then don't make a mistake. I'll help you practice. So, for days, he sat with her at recess, listening as she read aloud from the small book William had gifted her. At home, she practiced until her voice cracked, standing in front of the mirror as if the world were her audience. Elena encouraged her gently. You have a voice worth hearing, Maya. Use it. On the day of the competition, the Academy Hall buzzed with parents and children. William sat near the front, his presence calm and reassuring. Elena, though too ill to attend, had whispered before Maya left, "Shine for both of us, sweetheart." When her name was called, Maya's legs trembled as she climbed the stage. She held the book tightly, scanning the crowd. She saw curious eyes, doubtful eyes, and then William's steady gaze. She took a deep breath and began. Her voice shook at first, but as she continued, it grew stronger. The words flowed, clear and full of meaning. She read with emotion, her small hands gripping the book like it was a lifeline. When she finished, the hall erupted in applause. Some clapped politely, but others, truly moved, clapped with genuine warmth. William rose to his feet, pride shining in his eyes. Maya's cheeks glowed pink as she hurried off stage. Alex whispered, "You nailed it." For the first time, Maya believed it. After the event, several parents approached William. Some were polite, others skeptical. One woman muttered, "Well, maybe she does have talent after all." William responded calmly, "She doesn't maybe have talent, she has it, and she'll keep proving it no matter what you say." Maya overheard, and her heart swelled. That evening, back at home, Maya sat on the porch with her mother. The stars glittered above them, faint but comforting. "Mama," Maya whispered, "they clapped for me today. They actually clapped." Elena smiled weakly, stroking her daughter's hair. "Of course they did. The world can't ignore you forever, my little star." Maya leaned against her, closing her eyes. For the first time, she felt that the whispers of doubt were smaller than her own voice. Later that night, William received a message from the Academy's board. They wanted to discuss Maya's scholarship further, possibly extending it into a long-term arrangement. He smiled. setting his phone down. "We're only just beginning." That same night, across town, Mrs. Turner fumed as she heard the news. "This isn't over," she hissed to herself. But for once, her bitterness seemed powerless against the truth of Maya's rising light. And in her small room, Maya drifted to sleep, her dreams filled not with shame or fear, but with visions of classrooms, books, and a future she dared to believe in. The whispers might continue, but she had found something stronger: hope, friendship, and the belief of those who truly mattered. And that, she realized, was enough.
The morning sun rose over Willowbrook with a warmth that felt different, as though the whole town itself had shifted ever so slightly. For Maya, however, the heaviness she carried for so long seemed lighter than ever. The applause from the reading competition still echoed in her heart. It was proof that she could be seen, heard, and valued. But there was still a storm to face. The whispers hadn't completely disappeared. Mrs. Turner and her circle of skeptics continued their chatter, determined to drag Maya back into the shadows. Yet William Hayes, the man who had stepped into Maya's life like a guardian sent by fate, had no intention of letting that happen. That morning, William received a letter from the academy. It wasn't just confirmation of her scholarship, it was an offer. They wanted to extend Maya's support indefinitely, covering not only her tuition, but also books, supplies, and even tutoring to prepare her for a future beyond Willowbrook. William folded the letter with a proud smile. "This is only the beginning," he whispered to himself. When Maya arrived at school that day, Alex ran up to her with wide eyes. "Maya, did you hear? Everyone's talking about how good you were last night. Even Mrs. Ellis, you know, the one who never smiles, she told my mom you were amazing." Maya's heart skipped. She laughed nervously, covering her face. "You're making that up." "I swear," Alex said with a grin. "You showed them. They can't ignore you anymore." At lunchtime, while Maya sat alone with her sandwich, something unexpected happened. A girl named Clara, who used to join the whispers against her, walked over. She shifted uncomfortably, fiddling with the straps of her backpack. I wanted to say sorry," Clara mumbled. I was wrong about you." Maya blinked in surprise. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Then, softly, she replied, "Thank you." It was just 2 words, but they meant everything. That afternoon, William arrived earlier than usual. Maya climbed into the car, her small hands clutching the straps of her backpack. William noticed the smile tugging at her lips.
"You look lighter," he said. "I am," Maya admitted. I think I can do this. I think I really belong." William's chest swelled with pride. "You always belonged, Maya. It just took a little time for everyone else to see it." Later that evening, William invited Maya and her mother to his mansion for dinner. Elena hesitated at first. She didn't want to impose, but William insisted. "You're not guests," he said firmly. "You're family." The long dining table, usually so quiet and empty, came alive with laughter and conversation. Maya sat across from William, her eyes wide at the sight of silver cutlery and crystal glasses. Yet despite the grandeur, she felt at ease. Elena, though frail, smiled more than she had in months. She looked at William with gratitude. "You've given her something I couldn't," she whispered when Maya ran off to explore the garden. William shook his head. "No, Elena, you gave her everything. I'm just here to support what you've already built inside her." After dinner, Maya wandered into the library, her fingers brushing over the spines of hundreds of books. She turned to William, her eyes shining. "One day, do you think I could read all of these?" William chuckled. "Not in one lifetime, but you can try." She giggled, the sound filling the room like music. The weeks that followed brought transformation. Maya excelled at the academy, not just in reading, but in math and science too. Her teachers praised her determination, and slowly the whispers grew quieter. Even those who once doubted her began to see what William had always known. Maya was extraordinary. Alex remained by her side, a loyal friend who reminded her to laugh when the pressure grew heavy. Clara, too, began to sit with her at lunch, and little by little, Maya's circle of friends expanded. But the true change came one afternoon when William attended a town meeting. Parents and community members gathered to discuss local issues, but the conversation soon turned to the situation at the academy. Mrs. Turner stood, her voice sharp. "Mr. Hayes, you've poured so much into this child, but what if she fails? What if she isn't what you think she is?" The room buzzed with murmurs. William rose slowly, his presence commanding silence. He looked around at the crowd before speaking. "You all see a poor girl, but I see a fighter. I see someone who has endured more in 6 years than most of us will in a lifetime. And despite everything, she smiles, she studies, she dreams. If that isn't worth investing in, then tell me, what is?" The hall fell silent. Even those who doubted him before found no words to argue. For the first time, Mrs. Turner looked unsettled, her confidence cracked. That night, when William told Maya what he had said, her eyes filled with tears. "You really believe in me that much?" He knelt down so his eyes met hers. "Maya, I don't just believe in you, I admire you." Her small arms wrapped tightly around his neck. "Thank you," she whispered. Months passed, and Maya flourished. Her mother's health improved with proper care, supported quietly by William's generosity. Their home, though still modest, grew warmer, filled with books, laughter, and hope. One spring afternoon, as Maya sat on the porch reading, William arrived with a surprise. He carried a brand new backpack filled with supplies, notebooks, and even a tablet for her studies. Maya's eyes widened. "For me?" "For you," William said with a smile, "because your journey is just beginning, and I want you to have every tool you need." She hugged the backpack tightly, her voice trembling with gratitude. "I won't let you down." "You never could," he replied. On the day of the Academy's final ceremony, Maya stood proudly with her classmates. When her name was called for an award in excellence, the applause thundered. She looked into the audience, spotting William and Elena, both clapping with tears in their eyes. Maya stepped forward, holding her certificate. For the first time, she didn't feel like the poor girl from the edge of town. She felt like someone who had a future, someone who mattered. That evening, as the sun set over Willowbrook, Maya sat between her mother and William. She looked at the horizon, her small voice filled with hope. "Do you think one day I could help kids like me? Kids who don't have much?" William smiled. "I don't just think so, Maya. I know you will." She leaned her head against her mother's shoulder, the weight of doubt finally gone. The whispers of the past no longer defined her. She had found her voice, her strength, and her place in the world. And in that golden light, surrounded by love and possibility, Maya's story of struggle transformed into a story of triumph. Reflection to the viewers. And so, Maya's journey reminds us all, kindness has the power to change lives forever. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Dashes. Maybe, just maybe, your story of kindness will be the next to inspire.